103, 5 Lincoln 102, Lincoln 103 and 102.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
Henry 8, Henry 9. Respond to gate 437 Bravo for your dignitary detail. 3K911 unattended, 400 lower level near carousel 4, black bag. GTA in progress, 401 parking structure, section 4 boy.
Responding to 401 parking structure, section 1 boy.
415 passenger onboard aircraft.
Control 2 Franklin in a route.
484 suspect, female, Hispanic, 28 years of age, blue jeans, no further.
Control 5 Frank 401 is a route.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. And again, we're glad that you're here. We're glad that we're here, and we're glad that we're back on the air with you, broadcasting live here on this Friday edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio, broadcasting out of our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. Beautiful, cool fall, a little rainy weather, but nonetheless, good to be here during the fall in the Carolinas. Spent a little time recently up in the mountains, went to an old grist mill and had some corn ground where it's an old, very old grist mill actually on a stream. Been in use for many, many, many years, and we brought away some cool little items, including some pancake mix and some other stuff, and cornmeal, of course. And I'm pretty excited to use that kind of stuff. So we'll see how these cookings turn out. A lot of activity, of course, this week. We've seen a lot of violence. We often have said that violence this time of year, it's hard to miss. It's everywhere during the holiday season between around the 1st of November through the 1st of January is really a heightened time of violence, robberies, carjackings. In fact, we just had a security officer in New Jersey where they attempted to carjack the security officer who worked for the Ocean County Parks. We'll talk to you about that in a minute. But we've also had a lot of other violence, a lot of breaking news, of course. And today, in our topic for the next couple of radio programs, we're going to be talking about how to become a police officer. A lot of people ask, how do I actually become a police officer? Do I just go in and, put in an application and, they send me to the academy or something, or they just swear me in? A lot of people don't understand that lengthy process. So I put together a little summary of how to become a police officer, what it takes, what kind of exams to expect, what type of intensity, all of the phases that you'll be put through, all the steps that you'll be put through to be selected or not to go to the police academy. And at the police academy, just like being in any military service, when you are a recruit, you're going to go through a whole bunch of other phases, trials, struggles, psychological, physical pain. You're going to really get a workout going through a police academy, and some worse than others. We'll talk about that as well in our topic areas over the next couple of radio programs. But I do get that question quite often, and some people don't know the process. Some people don't know, what to expect, what the various phases are. Some people ask about how long is my application going to be good for if I don't get selected the first time. Is it forever? Is it till I get hired? So we're going to go through all that. And, it's going to be very informative for many. And for those of you who have been in law enforcement and have gone through the process, well, this is all a little refresher. Just a little walk back, in memory lane of those good old days when we've had to go through the process. But I am always happy to inform, educate, and help others in whatever area that we can. And this is an area that we get a lot of questions about. So we're going to also be talking about that. We mentioned the word violence. I mentioned the word violence just a few minutes ago. And unfortunately, in the last 17 or 18 days, there has been a lot of violence that has hit the private security industry. And if managers and security company owners and clients of private security don't pay attention to the news, they certainly need to hear this broadcast, because in the past 18 days, private security officers have killed 7 persons and wounded 14 others during confrontations and attacks. In fact, the latest one, and by the way, most are justifiable. Most. Some, not so much. This figure does not include another person who died while fighting with an Atlanta security officer this past week at a off-campus dormitory. Security says the man was intoxicated, belligerent. They were trying to help him to his off-campus apartment. Confrontation occurred and the man died from his injuries. That's under investigation by the Atlanta Police Department. So really, in reality, in the past 18 days, 8 persons have been killed and at least 14 others were shot during confrontations and attacks. Now, we know without a doubt that many people, they don't want to believe these facts. They don't want to believe the statistics. They don't want to believe that the private security industry can be this violent. But the fact is this: in the past 18 days, private security has killed more people in 18 days in this past month than most states' law enforcement combined. So let's say the state of Georgia, the whole state of Georgia, all of their police departments didn't kill 8 people in the past month. We see a lot of violent confrontations. We talked about in the last 2 weeks, we put out a report about the number of armored trucks being robbed. There's like 12 or 15 in the last, 90 days or so. There's been a lot of armed robberies. Just had one this past week in Honolulu. Authorities say the suspect fled, hid the money, came back for the money, and was caught. That's somebody who, was not only not thinking to begin with when he robbed the armored truck, but wasn't thinking when he went back to the scene to grab that money that he left behind. There are a lot of incidents of armored trucks being robbed, and violently. We've had several armored truck security officers killed in the past few months, one just this past month. We've had a trial, several trials actually this month, one in New Orleans, Louisiana, for an armored truck robbery where a security officer was killed, and this was a great outcome for the trial. One suspect has been found guilty of murder, sentenced to life without the chance of parole. One was charged with conspiracy and armed robbery, and he's sentenced to 20 plus years in prison. So it's a good outcome. Violence is really becoming a huge part of private security. When I hear the word, we just observe and report, it infuriates me, to be honest with you. Just this past week, in email conversation with an owner of a security company in Des Moines, Iowa, he said that, in his opinion, less than 1% of the overall security employed in the U.S. would be prepared to defend themselves, would be prepared to protect others. And I said, again, through email, are you serious? You're the owner of a security company, and you're selling security services, some of it being armed security, with that mentality that less than 1% of your people, 1% of the security industry is prepared? Well, I agree that most are underprepared, undertrained, under-equipped to say that less than 1% would be ready for an emergency or could handle a situation where they had to defend themselves. I lost it. I don't know what to say. I think that the guy needs to leave the security business and get in the staffing business, because that's all that he's doing. He's overselling his service, if that's his true thought. He's telling people, clients, that they can do this, that, and the other thing. They can perform miracles, and he's charging and billing for it. And yet, in his own conversation via email, he said less than 1% are prepared to defend themselves or others. Well, that's pretty ridiculous. In the security industry in the last 10, 15 years, it has become so violent, so much happening. When we come back, we got a lot of other stuff we want to share with you. Remember, Body Armor USA. We've got what it takes to protect you. Check us out online at Body Armor USA today. We can help you with protective clothing, body armor, gloves. If you're a corrections officer, a private security officer, law enforcement, campus security, we have what it takes to protect you. Body Armor USA.
Human trafficking is slavery.
And it happens all over America.
Any child, any woman, any man could potentially become a victim of human trafficking.
I am a victim of labor trafficking.
I was victim of child sex trafficking, but now I own my body.
Human trafficking is any kind of forced labor.
It can happen to anybody.
I am a mother.
I am an author.
I am a son.
I'm an advocate.
I am an educator.
I'm a sister.
I am a brother.
I'm so much more than what happened to me.
I am strong.
I am brave.
I am outspoken.
I am compassionate.
I am a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor.
I am a survivor of human trafficking.
Nurse, I need you to apply pressure to the head wound until I can get to it. I'm concerned she's lost too much blood.
Oh, no.
You in the corner, who are you? You're not supposed to be here.
She's my girlfriend, Doctor.
You need to wait out in the waiting room.
Please, Doctor, I want to stay with her.
Look, she's been badly injured. So if you want to do what's best for her, you need to let us do our work.
Please, Doctor, she has to be okay. I didn't mean to do this. I love her.
Wait a second. You were the driver?
Yes, but I didn't mean to. I swear, we went to dinner. I was just buzzed. I only had a few drinks.
Just buzzed? Why didn't you tell us that? In that case, your girlfriend is fine.
Hey, sweetie. I feel great. You want to get out of here?
I can't believe this. Really, Doctor? She's really okay?
What, are you kidding? No, not really. Nurse, get me a suture kit. Stat.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service.
Frontline Protectors, a brand new web series. be looking for it after the first of the year. This is going to be a great opportunity to showcase private and public officers doing what they do best, protecting our communities and protecting our nation. The web series is going to come out right after the first of the year with a brand new pilot that will show you every aspect of what private security personnel do, how they protect and save lives, how they put their own life on the line, just like a police officer. We're also going to include stories of heroic actions by law enforcement. Frontline Protectors, a web series that you won't want to miss. If you'd like to be a sponsor, please contact us, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We're currently filming right now, and if you'd like to submit something that's happened with one of your officers to be highlighted on the show, send us an email, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I'm sure by now that you probably have heard that in Florida, this was last week, well, it was actually earlier in the week, Alejandro Cabrera Cruz, 54, was arrested just today. He's charged with killing a 62-year-old woman at a business in Miami-Dade. Now, the thing that really irritates me is that this was an accidental shooting. Police say that Cabrera Cruz had been issued a firearm by his supervisor. He didn't know how to use the weapon. He didn't have a holster for the weapon, and he was handling the gun in a reckless manner in what police said was an attempt to familiarize himself with the weapon when it accidentally went off and it fired a round into a 62-year-old Artis Crawford, who died. The security officer was emotional, apologetic, and remorseful after the shooting earlier in the week, but nonetheless, it was reckless, and he's been charged with manslaughter. My opinion is that the supervisor who gave him the gun should also be charged with reckless manslaughter and contributing to that death. There's no doubt in my mind, had he, the supervisor, not relinquished the firearm to this security officer, who, number one, probably wasn't trained, number two, probably wasn't licensed to be an armed security officer, number three, didn't even have a holster for the firearm. No way, Jose, should he have been holding a firearm. No way should he had anything to do with that firearm. And had the supervisor not given it to him, guess what? We wouldn't be talking about it today because it wouldn't have happened. It's things like this that, understandably, the public looks at and goes, oh my God, just another cop wannabe, just another mall guard. Oh my goodness. How could we continue to allow these things to happen? If you're a security supervisor, manager, or company owner, I beseech you to make sure that when you have an employee in a uniform, whatever equipment that you're going to allow them to carry or issue to them, that they are properly certified and trained according to the law, according to the insurance requirements, according to the standards of not only the industry, but also the profession, the standards that should be in place. Because this tragedy certainly did not have to happen. And other things like this have happened in the past. And it just makes the private security profession look horrible. So we want to change that. Supervisors, managers, and owners, please help us to really put some things in place that really help our profession to look better than what it does sometimes. Now, on a high note, also another unique opportunity for us to look better to the public and to do a good job and to really be on our toes and highlight the things that the public can do. Roseville, California has hired a private security company to patrol the downtown areas. First Security Services will provide armed security officers who will conduct foot patrols of the downtown Roseville business corridor. The city police say that they have a lot of area to cover and not enough staff. While the security officers will be armed, they'll also have communications with the police, and they will also be allowed to detain persons committing crimes until Roseville police can arrive on the scene. It's definitely going to help with peace of mind, said one business owner. Another business owner, identified as Blaine Peterson, the manager of Monk's Cellar, said although he's never really had a bad experience at his business, it always helps to have extra security around watching, and this prevents things from happening. It will help having the security force out there. They'll also be handing out parking tickets, chalking tires, and freeing up the handicapped parking spots that are being filled by folks who don't have a handicap placard. This is not the first time that a city has hired a private security force to patrol a certain area of their city, town, or county. The city is going to be paying the security firm $155,000 initially for the new security program. And by the way, Orange County Sheriff's Department, Orlando Police, a number of other law enforcement agencies have hired both foot patrol and mobile security patrols. It's worked out fine. It's given them boots on the ground. Nothing major happened. Security officers didn't cross that line. No report of anything, negative on their part. It all went well. Also, we have seen right now, because of the lack of funding, the lack of recruits coming through, we've seen more and more county and city authorities, including libraries, schools, parks, and other entities of cities and counties, hiring private security to fill in the gap of things that law enforcement probably at one time did. We can do the job. The security industry can do the job. We just need to put the right people in place, and it'll work out. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a lot of news we want to talk about.
You're on your way to meet up with friends, but you can't seem to get anywhere quickly. You don't want your friends to be annoyed, so you text. You're on your way. Five seconds is the average time your eyes are off the road while texting while driving. Make sure you get where you're going.
Hey everyone, you're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector right here on the Private Officer Radio Network. Now don't go away, because we are coming right back when we've got a whole lot more right here on the Private Officer Beat Radio. At Armor College, a public safety institute, we train those who help others. Paramedics and emergency medical technicians, firefighters, police officers, law enforcement, private security, bail enforcement, and those on the front line. Check us out today at armorcollege.org. ARMOUR college.org. We'll even bring the school to you. Armor College, a public safety institute.
Are you shopping around for armed or unarmed security training, CPR or first aid training, lethal or non-lethal training in and around the greater Metro Charlotte area? Do you want to be SLED certified so that you can maybe start a new career or make some part-time income? Then check out Premier Training Academy, Charlotte, North Carolina's leading academy for all things training. 704-806-4933. Ask for John. Premier Training. We're here to train you so that you don't make mistakes. Premier Training Academy, Metro Charlotte's premier training service. 704-806-4933.
We have a lot of breaking news coming in, as always. Remember, if you want to know first, if you want that breaking news in your mailbox, go to privateofficer.org today, and you can get all the breaking news in your mailbox for free. You'll get breaking news, you'll get our bi-weekly newsletters, you'll also get Officer Down reports. We want to congratulate Barry Moore for receiving the Private Officer Life Saving Award this past week. We also awarded Ken Thompson this past week, also life saving. These security officers both performed quickly without due regard for their own safety in one case, and they saved lives, both of them. So congratulations. If you have any employees, you have coworkers, you have even management personnel, supervisors who deserve to be recognized, be sure to contact us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We love to recognize people who go above and beyond. In Hennepin County, Minnesota, a jury there has sentenced 32-year-old former St. Paul security officer Kenneth Lilly to 7 years in prison. He was involved in a off-duty road rage situation where he fired several shots into a bus, hitting a school bus driver. It's a situation where he could have killed a person, all because of a situation that he thought that the driver cut him off. Road rage it's a problem across the country. It's not going to go away, but using unreasonable and deadly force is not the way to solve the problem. In Sylacauga, Alabama, a critically injured Sylacauga police officer was pulled from his burning cruiser Thursday night after he crashed. Officer Blake McGee hit a logging truck on Highway 21 in Talladega County, Alabama. I certainly know where that is, and if you are a race fan, you know where Talladega is also. Upon impact, the officer's vehicle caught fire. He had extensive burn injuries. A passerby could not get him out. A Talladega County Sheriff's Deputy, Chris Rogers, stopped and helped to pull him through the vehicle's window, along with the assistance of several civilians. We're going to be recognizing Chris Rogers and the civilians. We'll be talking to him later next week. Again, a hero. This is someone that we'll definitely want to recognize on the new Frontline Protector. In Belton, Texas, a school security officer said he was just surprised when students serenaded him on his birthday. Students spread the news around the school about Marcus Wilson's birthday, and shortly afterwards, they surprised him by coming together to sing happy birthday and giving him a little love. They even hashtag Ellen DeGeneres Show on Twitter to show the love that they have for their school security officer. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, police there arrested a professional shoplifter after a shoplifting incident at the Hamilton Place Mall. Police responded and assisted security and arrested Lorraine Kennedy and Uganda Clark as they walked out of the mall with stolen property from multiple stores. Police said that both of them had shoplifted from several stores and that Lorraine Kennedy was actually a professional shoplifter, having been charged before. A third person has now been arrested in Memphis, Tennessee for impersonating a security officer. 39-year-old Adam Burt posed as a Metro security officer with two others as they kicked down a door of an apartment of a woman and pointed guns at her. They searched her apartment against her will. Police already arrested two others in this scheme. In Atlanta, Georgia, we just told you that police are investigating after a man died during a struggle with a security officer. The off-campus apartment complex was being secured by a private security officer. They say that the security officer and the man who died got into a confrontation and that the man died from his injuries. A deputy in Tennessee has died in a tragic automobile accident. This occurred at the Montgomery County, Cheatham County line. Tennessee Highway Patrol said that Cheatham County Sheriff's Deputy Stephen Reese was killed after he failed to stop at a stop sign and a van ran into him. Also in Georgia, police there in Cobb County paid off lunch balances of kids who could not afford to pay them off and that the school would not allow to eat until they were paid off. Police officers came together for reduce the lunch balances and provided more than $500 in payments. In San Diego, a San Diego bar security guard at the Little Italy bar who shot a customer after being punched in the face was sentenced to 6 years in prison. D'Angelo Jeffrey, 24, pled guilty to assault with a deadly weapon and firearms allegations, including carrying a concealed weapon without a permit. According to authorities, a confrontation ensued, and after being assaulted, shots were fired, but the prior security guard, ex-security guard, has pled guilty. Pleasantville, New Jersey, 3 people were wounded after gunmen opened up at a high school football game. A 10-year-old, a 27-year-old, and a 15-year-old were all shot, and suspects are still at large. The Cleveland, Ohio union that represents 200 Cleveland school security officers are raising concerns today after they say that they have been assaulted and that they are very concerned for their security. Police said there are currently 14 school police officers on the job, and just a few years ago there were 30. There are also 187 school security officers in the school buildings, but at one time there were 300. the security and police union says that these numbers are not adequate enough to staff and to respond to all of the situations that happen on school property, and that their officers' lives are at jeopardy. In Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, a nightclub security officer has shot a suspect during a struggle. Police were called to the South Rock Lounge bar. They said that the victim was taken to the Florida Health Center and transferred over to Broward Health with non-life-threatening injuries. No arrests have been made. Charlotte police in North Carolina working security details at the Epicenter, an entertainment center in uptown area of Charlotte, Mecklenburg, North Carolina. When they heard gunfire, they ran. They saw two men shooting at each other, and then one man began shooting at police, and they fired, killing that man. Police and State Bureau of Investigation is conducting that investigation currently. Police say that a 17-year-old in Glendale, Wisconsin, is responsible for the theft of more than $33,000 worth of iPhone and Apple products. He's facing multiple retail felony charges for theft. Terrence Beek, 17, of Chicago, was nabbed after he conducted more than 3 different raids at Apple product stores, snatching up thousands of dollars, and now he's facing multiple felony charges. Police say that a team of shoplifters are attacking security officers in Chicago, Illinois. Teams of professional shoplifters and violent shoplifters have already hit 9 separate stores in recent weeks, attacking security officers in several cases with pepper spray and brute force when they try to attempt to stop the shoplifters with leaving with tens of thousands of dollars of merchandise. Police say that they have some suspects that they're looking at and that they're going to continue their investigation. In Wasilla, California, a security officer there has been arrested by police for excessive force. Police say that he stopped a man at a store and evidently used excessive force while making a citizen's arrest. On October 29th, the Wasilla police say that Peter Michael Jomillo, who was employed by a private security company, used excessive force to arrest a man at the Burlington Coat Factory for trespassing. Authorities there say this is not the first time that security officer has been accused of excessive force, and after looking at several other cases that he was involved in, they decided to charge him this time with assault on that person that he had detained for trespassing. In Davie, North Carolina, 4 people have been arrested, a stolen gun recovered after an attempted armed robbery in Mocksville, North Carolina, at the Fish Games on US 601 South. The Fish Games is an electronic gaming room where people can win prizes, and in some cases, illegal money is also paid. The security officer said that when the suspects came in with a gun, he opened fire. They ran out. Police did surround the area and eventually made 4 arrests in that case. Those rooms have been scenes of murders and assaults and shootings of security officers, not only in North Carolina and Texas and Oklahoma, Florida, and several other states, and they are very dangerous. In Kenosha, Wisconsin, a 27-year-old woman's been arrested after she brutally attacked and battered a security officer at the Fruited Kenosha Hospital, pulling out the security officer's hair, scratching her face, and attempting to hit her with a blood pressure monitor before she fled the hospital and was captured by police. She is facing assault charges tonight. A man who attacked and again violently attacked a security officer at the Foxwoods Casino in Connecticut has been sentenced. Authorities there say that the attack occurred on August the 25th, 2018. The man attacked a security officer at the resort, injuring the security officer. He actually has now been sentenced to 29 months in prison for that attack. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how do you become a police officer? What are the steps? What do I got to do? How long will it take? You know, all of these questions that people have. There are still some people, thankfully, that do want to become law enforcement. So we're going to discuss this in great detail over the next couple of radio programs. We'll be right back here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
I met Luke when I was pretty much born. We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen.
Hi, everyone. Did you know that one organ donor can save up to 8 lives? The need for organ donors now is greater than ever. 120,000 people right now in the U.S. are waiting for an organ transplant. 95% of Americans support organ donation, but only a little over half are registered. My charity, Health Corps, has teamed up with Donate Life and Organize.org to save up to 500,000 lives by getting 62,500 folks to register as organ donors. If you're not registered, click the Register Now link to stand up and be counted. And when you're done, go on Facebook and tell us your story and add my hashtag organs will. For example, you might say, hashtag organs will make a difference. I'm an organ donor. Are you?
Becoming a law enforcement officer. You know, it's kind of funny that even in this day and age, people still believe that becoming a law enforcement officer is much like applying for any other job. You go in, you fill out an application, and you are interviewed and either offered a position or not offered a position. But factually, that's not how it works. It's actually completely incorrect. This isn't Barney Fife, Mayberry. You go in and get deputized, get handed a badge and a gun, and you're on the street in the same day. This is a process, and there are many steps and things to consider before you ever make your first application. And yes, I did say first application because many times those wanting to become law enforcement officers have to go through multiple agencies and application processes and testing processes. So let's start with the beginning, the real thing that you have to decide before ever filling out your first application. And that is, do you want to be a local, county, state, or federal law enforcement agency, because not every police department or law enforcement agency does the same thing. They don't have the same job. They're not tasked with the same duties. They don't have the same jurisdiction. They don't have the same authority. So let's start with this first problem that we have to solve. And the problem is, do you want to be a local police officer? And when I say local, in every state, there are city police departments, village police departments, town police departments, and even borough police departments. Local law enforcement that covers a jurisdiction within that town, village, city, just a small area or just a big area like LA, Detroit, DC, New York City, and other municipalities. Do you want to be a county law enforcement officer? In many counties, they have county law enforcement that covers the whole county, not just one town, not one borough, village, or city, but the whole county. An example of that might be Mecklenburg Police Department. Meck Police is a county police department in Charlotte, North Carolina. They cover the whole county, even though within that county there are multiple other independent municipal police departments. But the county police department has authority and jurisdiction throughout the county. They respond to all calls within the county, even though other independent police departments may also respond and have jurisdiction within that city or town. There's also county sheriff's departments in every state except for a few. County sheriff's departments in many areas are responsible for the security of the courts. They're responsible for all jail functions, detention, officers and deputies who work to secure prisoners. They serve warrants. They serve civil process. While in other areas, county sheriff's departments are also responsible for all law enforcement duties within a county, or they may respond to areas outside of other municipalities and cover the outer area of the county. We also have to consider whether or not you want to be a state trooper. In most states, the state police are the chief law enforcement agency of the state, and they have jurisdiction throughout their state. They can respond to multiple types of calls. In many areas, their primary service in jurisdiction is along the interstates, enforcement of traffic laws, interdiction of drugs, commercial vehicle laws, accident investigation, and responding to emergencies on our interstates and state roads throughout the state. But they have complete law enforcement authority throughout the state. Do you want to be a federal law enforcement officer? There are multiple federal agencies, more than 40 federal agencies, some you have never heard of or thought about or seen. Up until just 10 years ago, many people never realized that NCIS is actually a federal law enforcement agency. The Naval Criminal Investigative Service is an arm of the Marines and the Navy responsible for investigating acts of crime against the Navy and the Marines or committed by Navy personnel or the Marines. NCIS is just one of more than 40 federal agencies in the United States. So first, we really do have to consider whether or not we really want to work in a state agency or a federal agency or protect our hometown, our city that we've grown up in. Once we've determined that, we can begin to hone in on how to begin the process of becoming a law enforcement officer for that particular agency. If you ever go to YouTube, you'll see many police departments, commercials, recruitment videos, advertising their openings, their recruitment process, and the academy opportunities. In the United States, if you want to be a municipal, city, county, or state law enforcement officer, there are multiple steps that you must take. But again, before we even begin talking about that process, we want to talk about you, the applicant, because there are certain people that law enforcement are looking for, and certain people that law enforcement will not take and won't even allow to be an applicant or participate in all of the steps of becoming law enforcement. I know of no law enforcement in any jurisdiction that accepts a convicted felon. It doesn't matter if the level of the felony was low level, if it wasn't involving drugs or any serious offense like bank robbery, murder. Still, most agencies, or all agencies that I'm aware of, will not accept a convicted felon. If you were charged with a felony and that felony has been removed through an adjudication process or by a governor's pardon or an expungement, then you do have an opportunity, a chance to be allowed to go through at least the hiring process, the application, and the other multiple steps involved in being hired as a law enforcement officer. Misdemeanors of some degrees are allowed, but again, each applicant will be scrutinized even for a misdemeanor arrest, especially those involving violence, drugs, robberies, assaults, weapon charges. If these are still on your record, there is a high probability that although you may begin the process, once they do a complete background check and a deep dive into your criminal record, you'll probably be eliminated. So what are the steps of becoming a law enforcement officer? Number one, in every jurisdiction, just like with any job, they're going to advertise the position. You can't just walk in and say, hey, give me an application, I'm going to go ahead and start the process. There'll be some type of an announcement, either in local media, newspapers, internet, or multiple sources, advertising that XYZ police are now hiring, and to submit your application, now usually online. In the old days, it was a paper application, but now it's online. So you will fill out a multiple page application, very detailed. And that application must be true and accurate. In most applications on the bottom, it'll say you are signing an affiant, meaning that this is a affidavit of truth and that you have not lied, you have not been deceptive, and that everything that you put down is true to the utmost. Once the application is completed and they collect all of the various applicants that have been submitted for this particular job, you also will be involved in multiple other steps. Now, I do want you to be aware of that with law enforcement, they will take as many applications as is submitted. That's required. They can't just pick and choose. So when they have an opening and they advertise it, everyone who applies for the job, they're going to review and process that application. If the police department has 10 openings and 500 people apply for the job, they will go through the process and process all 500 applicants. The next step after the written usually is an agility. Now, with the agility, many times it's the toughest, one of the toughest phases of the application process. But I will tell you this. After those 500 people have put in an application and the process has begun, some folks will be weeded out in the written application process. Those who have notated that they have felonies, drug convictions, violence convictions, dishonorable discharges, anything that is negative to that degree will be weeded out, and then they'll do an immediate background check on those folks to see what the status of their criminal history is or what it looks like. Now we have the agility phase of the application process. During the agility process, this is where they set up multiple stages, multiple phases of an agility physical exam. It's here that you'll be put through your paces, push-ups, pull-ups, running 2 miles in a timed fashion, strength endurance, pulling dead weight, 150 pounds, and multiple other stages through that phase of agility and physical strength testing. Again, here, you will find that out of the applicants who have taken this phase, there will be many who will not pass. And in many cases, this is where another large chunk of those applicants do drop off. So let's say you started with 500 applicants. Immediately they reduce that to 400 because of folks who have identified that they do have a violent criminal past or felonies or other drug-related or non-acceptable criminal history. So now you have 400 that take the agility. And let's say in the agility, another 100 people don't pass. They drop out. So now you have 300 people. Now they begin a mental health evaluation, a deep dive of your criminal history. Sometimes you'll also be subjected.
So let's talk about the exam, the written exam. And this is an area that freaks a lot of people out because they don't take written exams very well. A lot of people are more hands-on, practical type people. They'd rather take some type of exam where they have to do something after they've learned something, and they like those much better. Many people actually, when you tell them that there's a written exam to a course or to a type of training that they're doing, it makes them nervous. It causes some people to have a higher heartbeat rate, and they kind of freak out. But this is one of the areas of going through the process. It's one of the phases that is going to be right up front. So you're going to take the application, you're going to take the written exam secondary, and we want to talk a few minutes about what that written exam is comprised of, what it is exactly. And when we talk about the police exam or the entry police examination, we're talking really about a civil service exam for the most part. Many areas, if you're working for a city, a county, a state, has instituted prerequisite to hiring police by requiring that all applicants take a 2-part exam, the first being the written and then the agility. And some places, they really have a very comprehensive written exam as part of their elimination process to see who is the best of the best. The civil service exam evaluates basic skills required by police officers that would be performed by police officers, including reading comprehension, spelling, grammar, memorizing things, vocabulary, facts and information. I can remember back to the exams that I've taken. Some of them included directions. They would give you, how do you get to this person using this map? In this scenario, which way is north and which way is east? There's a lot of comprehension questions. They're evaluating your cognitive thinking skills and how you deal with problems. There are many, many people who get stumped on answering basic questions because trying to think about it, trying to reason out that answer really freaks them out and they panic. And that's not good because that is how you get eliminated. Currently, there is no national exam per se. Exams vary from state to state and agency from agency, but they are all going to be somewhat similar. That's just like there is no exact number of academy training hours or even material topics covered. It varies from state to state. There's now no national training curriculum for academies. However, they will be similar. You're going to cover some of the basic stuff. Stopping vehicles, high-risk stops, traffic and criminal laws of that state, use of force, de-escalation, weapon training, handcuffing training. These are all similar, but some are going to have variances. Same thing with the written exam. There are study materials. There are some online references when you do have to take an exam that you can kind of look at so that you understand. But there are no clear-cut test studying material that's going to guarantee that you're going to pass those exams in any area. Civil service or police entry-level exams are often taken at large testing centers, sometimes even in school gymnasiums. That's where I've taken a few of them. And it just depends on the area that you live in. The entrance exam for police officers, like I said, it's going to measure basic skills. So if you read well, if you comprehend well, if you're a problem solver, you do jigsaw puzzles, you do all of these type of tests and games that test your memory, then you're going to do well because that's what it's all about. Sometimes there will be questions that ask the same thing different ways. They're going to ask you a question, and 25 questions later, they're going to ask you that same question in a different way because they want to test whether or not you were guessing at the answer or whether or not you truly knew the answer. Don't be thrown off. Don't get yourself in a position where you're hyper and where you can't concentrate because you're so freaked out and nervous. The passing for these exams usually is at the 80% mark. And I'll just tell you from my own experience, if you go in with a cool, level head and you don't get yourself all hyped up and nervous, and you do some pre-testing reading, studying, there's even exams that you can get that are test exams. They're not going to be the one that you take, of course, but they're going to be something similar. If you start practicing, if you start studying, ask some of your buddies who's been through this to kind of fill you in and help you. Maybe test with you, study with you. it's going to help down the road. If you go in there thinking you're going to wing it and you're going to automatically pass through, no, you're not. You have to, like with anything else, study. Check with your peers. Check with folks who have gone through it. Prepare for that written test. Try to identify your strengths and weaknesses ahead of time, not during the exam. And you should do fine. It's one of those early on exams that's going to measure whether or not you're up to passing and becoming a police officer. It really is that entry area, that entry level area that's going to challenge you and position you. If you pass the written exam, you're on to the agility exam. And by then, they're doing a background check. They're doing a reference check. They're checking, some agencies will check back to when you were 10 in grade school. They're definitely going to check your high school teachers and principals. And if you're in the military, obviously, they're not just going to look at the DD-214. They're going to do more than that. They're going to talk to your DIs, to officers that were over you, and they're going to find out what type of guy you are. Are you easy to anger? Are you easy to become flustered? Are you somebody who's level-headed, thinks things through, don't talk without thinking? Are you a person who can reason? Are you a person who can talk with anyone about anything? That's what they're going to look at. But the written exam, you might as well consider that your entry into having either complete success in this process or no success. You have to pass this written exam to go on to the next phase. This is the entry level cognitive exam, the civil service exam that most departments give. Now, the sheriff's departments in some areas do not give the civil service exam because, as we have stated, the sheriff's department the sheriff is elected. He can appoint as many deputies as he thinks is necessary for him to provide public safety in his community, and that the budget can, take care of. So you may not have to go through the civil service exam, but in some areas, when you apply to be a deputy sheriff, you may have to. It all depends on what state, what county, where you're at. There are a lot of variances in this progress. So as you have heard today, there's a lot of steps, a lot of phases, a lot of trials that you're going to go through if you really want to be a law enforcement officer. It's not a quick and easy process. It's not one and done, as many people do believe that it is. This is a process, and if you don't make it the first time, it's going to be a process over and over. Some people do take exams 5 to 10 times before they finally get approved and they pass every phase of that complete process. On the next episode, we're going to talk about some more phases of what it really takes before you're hired as a law enforcement officer, before you ever can begin thinking about that other process called the academy. We want to make sure that you contact us, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Anytime that you need assistance, that's what we are here for. Until the next time, be blessed, be safe, and we will see you back here on the radio.